everybody. The problem with speaking after my senior colleague has made his presentation is that he has taken away most of my points. So I hope I have sufficient points of interest that will keep the mental gears churning among my enlightened audience. I come from Chhattisgarh. This is a newly carved out state from the erstwhile state of Madhya Pradesh. Just to give you an idea about the scale, we run about 52,000 schools at all levels, and I'm talking only about government schools. The issue, as I would like to flag it, is that we first need to admit that there is something wrong with the system before we can try to rectify it. In that respect, I'm very appreciative of the Honorable Minister from Punjab because he very categorically admitted to the faults. We also share the same kind of faults. Unless we admit, we are not going to improve. If you try to brush our mistakes or our failings under the carpet, then I don't think that's the right step forward. And there's no doubt we all agree that the current educational system based on the erstwhile British Macaulay system of things is not the best. Yeah, I stand corrected. It's not the best way of going about this. We are creating babus rather than real learners. As he said, from Microsoft perspective also, IT today is the age of IT, and it needs to be integrated. We should not go back to the old slate board, the textbook version of things. We need to think ahead. But given this huge numbers, both children, schools, and it's like dragging a dead ox or a dead bullock. It refuses to budge. The inertia is on the wrong side of things. It doesn't move forward. Not to repeat the points that the Honorable Principal Secretary Punjab School Education said, I'd like to take a few arguments forward, a few issues forward. He talked about improving the quality of teachers, because if we do not improve the quality of teachers, we are actually not improving the quality of students. But then I believe it's a vicious cycle. See, this teacher is poor meaning not economically, poor in standards. So the student is a poor student. The student is a poor student. In future, he is going to become a teacher. He is going to be a bad teacher. So where do we break it? The problem is that, and as typical bureaucrats go, or the typical bureaucracy goes, the cycle, we expect the cycle to keep rolling by itself. No one figures out where the accelerator is, where the brake is. We just let it roll. And that's the problem. Someone has to break it. Someone has to break it. In Chhattisgarh, we have taken a few initiatives. Of course, some of them are traditional, but some of them hopefully will be path-breaking, and we are seeing, in the last couple of years, we are seeing some changes. Number one, for teachers training, other than I'll not repeat, other than the normal methods of ODL, the regular teaching, what we are introducing from this session is, we've already introduced it, is a certificate course. The teacher does not have to come to the SCRT or the DIET or to any teaching platform. They have to attend a one-day orientation course. Then after that, they'll go back, and from their own place of posting, wherever they are, or wherever there's a nearest online acceptability or a connectivity, they're going to be assessed at 15-day intervals over a period of 3 months. Now, this 15-day interval is again flexible. It's not fixed for a slot. He's free to take it as per his or her convenience. The issue is, we need to know whether that teacher has the basic level of understanding or is capable of teaching. It's not an exam. It is just a set of 10 or 15 questions, half of them relating to his subject, maybe physics, maybe English, but the other half is how he would react to a particular situation in a school, in a classroom setting. So here, now we introduce the system. Now look at how they break the system. Half of them or more than that complain of bad connectivity. They said we sat for it, we logged in, but the connection conked out. The moment that they realized that the question is tricky, they gave up. So we have on record, online record, that he attended, but unfortunately never completed. Second, the complaint, it's not a complaint, the rest of the, let's say 30%, they don't even sit for it. No, we ran through the entire 3-month this thing, we did a pilot, we took a random lot of 120 odd teachers, out of whom, percentage-wise speaking, about 40% actually sat for the exam. Not the exam, this assessment. Out of that 40%, 35 odd said we never completed it because of technical reasons. And the remaining 5 odd %, they gave a fair reflection on this thing. But unfortunately, only one of them came up to our standards. So this is the level we are dealing with. So as sir also said, it's not how ideal we would like them to be as a teacher. We have to think about ways of how we can sink to that level so that we can actually pull them up. It's like reaching down into a well and you are even not finding the hand of the teacher to pull him up. He's so far, below the ground level. Let me be very frank. I'm criticizing my own system, but I think we should accept reality. Second point is about parents' interactions, parents' responsibilities, and parents' interests. This was also mentioned by him. See, the main reason why we do not send our children to Sarkari schools and we prefer private schools is, firstly, we pay a lot of fees. Secondly, we expect better standards. And both the reasons are interrelated. If I am paying money, I expect services. And I expect quality, I'll demand it. And if I'm demanding it, my son or my daughter who is in class 1 or 2 or maybe 8 or 9, I don't expect him to stand up for his rights. But as parents, I'm a customer, I demand those rights. This economics is missing in a Sarkari school. There is no fees, so you're at least bothered. If you paid even 50 rupees also, you would extract 50 rupees worth of teaching from your teachers. I have a radical suggestion. Instead of giving it free, why shouldn't we charge even a nominal amount? I think 50 rupees today or 100 rupees today is not a big amount for. Maybe we could even dispense with that for the extremely low category, the worst of the lot economically, but maybe we could think about that. The moment someone pays for a service, he will demand a quality, a basic quality. Anything that comes gratis, we don't bother. That's why, as they say, civic sense in India suffers because everything seems to be free. But if you paid for a toilet, you will make sure that it stays clean. Simple logic. I think if we ignore the basic ways in which our mind functions, we are actually dooming the system to failure, even before we started. One experiment we undertook was with the UNICEF, was the concept of BALA. Some of you might be familiar, the building as a learning aid. I know with our resource constraints, state governments don't have too much of funding flexibilities, but in those buildings where we actually developed it, the dropout ratios are nearly 0. We experimented with a scheme called Saraswati Cycle Yojana, in which we give only girl students, because in Chhattisgarh, the dropout ratio of girls 5 years ago was as high as 32% between primary, middle and high school. So we introduced this Saraswati Cycle Yojana, which gives us bicycle free to the girls. Believe it or not, today the dropout ratio of girls is only 0.8%. it is higher, it is lower than boys. Boys' dropout rate is still at 2.2%. See, the reason is twofold. One, the problem of walking to the school for an adolescent girl is resolved, not solved, it is resolved. More importantly, with personal hygiene issues, especially in rural India, which I need not go into in detail, the cycle is a blessing in disguise. Third, and an unintended reason which we discovered later is, this girl, actually the cycle is used only for the school hours. After that, if there is a sibling who is also coming to school, he or she also hitches a ride. The parents' mobility improved, so the parents started occasionally coming to school. So indirectly you have other spin-offs. It helped. Just putting forth one example. We talk about digitization, like Microsoft and other, even ELETS also was proposing. Mindbox was proposing. The problem is again of resources. Not every place in Chhattisgarh has a connectivity. We think about strengthening vocational education. Not every place has the capacity to give you a vocational training. Again, in this context, I would like to mention Chhattisgarh's unique initiative. We are the first state in the country to enact an act which gives a person who has crossed or passed class 8th the right to acquire a skill. In fact, we are the first state to do so. The right to skill development is an act which guarantees an applicant who has passed class 8 that within 90 days of your application, we will be giving you a training in a skill out of a set of 52 possible skills options. If we are unable to give you within 90 days, we are guaranteeing you a slot whenever it becomes available, and that slot is already decided and communicated to the person concerned in advance. You don't have to run around from pillar to post. It comes automatically as an SMS, and if he has an email, it comes as an email. Our purpose is vocational education, as I believe is the thrust of this summit. Skill upgradation or acquisition of a primary skill should become a matter of right. Why are we only talking about education in class, the theoretical classroom education in classes 9, 10, 11, 12? Why not an alternative vocation? In this context, we also have made one amendment. What we are now saying is, from next session onwards, we have 6 subjects, all of you must be aware, for the class 12th. What we are saying is, instead of the last elective optional, which is generally a language course, the third language, we are saying you can drop that and you can opt for a vocational course of your choice. And this will become a part of your main mark sheet. In other words, the certificate will look the same, but instead of, let's say, Tamil or Sanskrit as the last optional, you might have IT, or maybe automobile repair, or maybe electrical maintenance, or even needlework. There are 52 options. It includes as mundane things as agriculture and pisciculture also. So this is one experiment we are going through, and given the response, we are expanding it to 150 schools next year. We started off with a very modest 20 schools this year, but the number of applicants we found suddenly went up from the number of applicants for the normal courses. So I believe, I take it as a sign of success, and then we go ahead. We also we talked about the parents and the society in general not taking an interest in the school, in the output of the children. They think, firstly, that's not their job. Secondly, even if they think that's their job, they do not know what to expect or what to ask. What we have done is, we have ensured in the last 1 year that every school displays as a big 6 feet by 4 feet banner, a flex, or as a wall writing, the minimum levels of learning that is expected of a child from class 1 to class 12 in each subject. It is displayed. For example, just to give you an example, in class 8, he is expected in science to know this much, it is displayed there. So if you walk into a school and you have no idea about what is being taught, at least if you walk into the school for class 8, you know that the class 7th is complete, so this child should know minimum X, Y, Z of science or X, Y, Z of mathematics. It is there on display. And to ensure that, we have what is called under the Panchayati Raj system, we have what is called the Gram Sabhas. We have two compulsory Gram Sabhas which will take place within the school premises. In other words, we are forcing the community participation to take stock of the school, because if they do the Gram Sabha within the school premises, they are bound to ask questions. Earlier, the Gram Sabha used to take place in the Panchayat Bhavan. So if the school is not visible, they are not interested. So again, that also gives us a feedback. Last but not the least, we have the new education policy, I believe, should take up issues like life skills, personal health and hygiene, basic legal and financial literacy, etc. Because these are things that are not a part of the regular curriculum, but I think the children should know. What I find when I interact with children in the state, in my state, is that they lack the basic awareness. If you send them to a bank, if you send them to the post office, they have no idea what goes on there. That's why they are hesitant. What should I say? They don't feel that it is a necessity. And given issues like incidents like the infamous Nirbhay Khan and everything, things like that, I think it's legal literacy and also what is a self-awareness about how people should behave towards them, especially towards the adolescent girl children. That should also be a part, in my opinion, of, if not the formal curriculum, but at least of they should know. Because these are part of what to anticipate, what to expect from life, from different situations. Before I close, I just put before you two models, the South Korean model and the Finnish model of schooling. South Korean model is a 100% literacy model where everyone must go to school. Quite the opposite is the Finnish model, which is optional, yet they have a 100% attendance, no dropouts. We are in between, yet we have all kinds of dropouts. So what's wrong? Neither compulsion works nor voluntarism works. Then what works? I mean, God knows what works. But then we can't leave it to God. Somewhere between us, we have to play the role of God. You know, God. Yes. But maybe sometimes I think that in India, some interests, let me call them interests, not just vested interests, they have a lot to. Yes. Thank you. Sorry. Yes. Yes.
Much better.
Yeah.
Even though they are not paid at par with the government schools. Why is the government failing to take the accountability from the teachers in spite of the economics being very much present there?
I won't say good question. I would say that the very fact that you're asking a question means that I got my message across to you. If I had failed in getting my message across to you, you wouldn't have asked me this question. No, the reason is very simple, I believe, and this is my personal opinion. The salary is being paid by the government. And the common man doesn't believe it's coming out of his pocket. You know, the American concept of the taxpayers' money is still not there in India. Indirectly payment, it's not visible. If I take it out of my own pocket and I give it to you, I expect something from you, which is not happening in the government schools. I think that's the real reason why we are not demanding.
as a follow-up, is there a will in the system to get after teachers as accountable teachers? I've seen both sides of the spectrum. Are we willing as administrators to say, the school, the teachers are not performing well, I will sort them out? Strikes, elections, all kinds of stuff. Whether it is the politician or the bureaucrat, the school teacher seems to have levers of coercive control which are beyond normal. Isn't that one of the reasons?
Yes, fully agreed. It is, if not the reason, it is a major, maybe 75% of the reason stems from this only. But good things, there are some good developments. Like in Chhattisgarh, the Chief Minister and the other ministers have finally woken up to the fact that, yes, they are becoming a law unto themselves, the teachers, government teachers. Something needs to be done. Some other states have taken drastic measures like, moving them out of the system itself. Maybe need not be that drastic, but yes, there is a will that is developed, because unless they are also realizing that unless the level of the platform that is being provided to the students who are the future administrators.
Till I am not empowered as a person, how can I perform?
No. That's what we their accountability.
So the question is,
Say,
the system is becoming corrupt. The system is becoming corrupt. Why? Because the people were not trained in the initial stages. So should we just put the blame on the
No,
teachers, or should we go to the grassroots level to remove the problem from there? That's my thought.
As I said, it's a vicious cycle. But I have just one statement on this. See, we have the teachers, those teachers who taught us, I'm sure you find them, they were of a better caliber. And the current law that is teaching your children, there's a downward trend. Why? I think no, I'm not generalizing, I'm just saying as a very open kind of a statement. It's a level of commitment. Exactly. They came for teaching first. The Naukri was later on. The current law is for the job. Teaching is later on. See, that's it. I could go into that, but there's shortage of time. We are trying to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.